Hi, I'm Joan Lok. Many you have may have noticed that I skipped last month workshop, and the reason is because I actually traveled to the faraway land of New Zealand and Australia, and of course I always bring my sketchbook. And a lot of times when I bring my sketchbook, I usually would just post it after I finish the entire sketchbook and would take a while. But then this is a specifically longer trip, and the whole trip is around 17 days. So I was able to actually finish my entire sketchbook from start to finish. So I would like to share that with you now. So here, let's have a look. Okay, so this is my sketchbook, and I started it new. And a lot of times when I start my sketchbook, I usually would name the tour, if it is a guided tour, then, this is actually one from GoBus and is actually November of 2024. And a lot of times what I like to do is in the beginning of the trip, I like to write down the day and also where I went to because it actually would be an easier reference for me when I kind of like write a description of my sketches because after a little while, sometimes you may forget where you were or what day it is. So basically, it's a trip to New Zealand and Australia. And the name of the tour is called Highlights of the South Pacific, and mainly is to Australia and New Zealand. So in the first a few days, we're actually in Australia, and then we fly to actually in New Zealand, and then we fly to Australia, and then from Australia we also went to different places, and this is kind of like a not to scale map of what where I were. I basically flew to Australia, go to Auckland, and then visited different places there, and then flew to Queensland, and then from Queensland also see some places, and then flew to Melbourne in Australia, and then from Melbourne, flew to Cairns, went to see the Great Coral Reef, and then from there, flew to Sydney and spent a few days there, and then that's the trip. So let's get started. And one thing I also like to do is before I start, I always like to put, my husband and I, like just a quick sketch of the beginning of the trip. So here we are. And where we landed is actually Auckland. And this is a the first day, and we have some free time on our own before the tour gets started. So we walk around downtown, and this is the St. Peter and St. Joseph Cathedral in Auckland, New Zealand. And then, of course, is the famous Sky Tower, and it is the tallest man-made structure in New Zealand, and also, according to their record, is actually the tallest man-made structure in the Southern Hemisphere. So, and it's called Sky City. We're actually staying in a hotel in the same complex. And then after the welcome dinner, we actually went to the top of the Sky Tower, which can see the whole landscape of Auckland. And this is actually a view from the Sky Tower. And after that, after I sketched, I actually went down to the reception and I asked them what's the name of the bridge. And of course, guess what it's called? It's called Harbor Bridge, right? What a simple name, right? And I have to say that, we also, my husband and I also, I celebrated his birthday, in the Sky City restaurant as well. So thank you for the waiter and waitress that bring him the birthday cake. Thank you. And then the next day, we went on the tour of Auckland City. And what I usually like to do is a lot of time because it's a bus tour or a tour that have a lot of, like sitting on the coaches. So usually I would bring my little watercolor set, my sketchbook, and I would sketch. And a lot of time it's actually the tour member that I sketch. But in this particular trip, I didn't do many of that. And the reason is because the um, coaches, the back of the seat actually doesn't have the full table. So without the table, it's kind of hard for me to hold a book and draw and paint at the same time. So I did it, the first day, and I found it outrageously difficult. So I basically this is kind of like one of the two sketches that I did on the coach. I did not do any sketching on the coach because the seat were tight, and then the like throughout New Zealand and Australia, the coaches does not have like the table they come down. So except the one in Sydney. So, like I was just unable to do that. This is our tour director, Shay, right? And she was obviously, trying to explain to us, like what she's seeing from reading from her iPad, right? So this is, like on the first day, we are waiting to go to an island called the Waikiki Island, and it was a very busy day. So we were basically waiting in line to board the boat, and they have some shades there, and this is a very nice historic building. So while we're waiting to board, I actually sketched this. So I like this. I like the composition. It's really cool. And this is the wheel from the ferry, because after we boarded the boat, it takes a while for it to disembark. So, this is the wheel from the boat. And then this is, of course, like I say, I like to paint unsuspecting people. So this is one of the ferry rider on the trip to the island. And we have a trip of different vineyard and olive farm and things like that. And then on our way back, we're waiting for the ferry. So this is actually these two are the scene from the pier looking at the bay itself. Okay. And this is for kayaking. Okay. And then, of course, like most unsuspecting people, this is on the way back. We already finished the tour, and then this is on our way back. Okay. I have to say that the majority of the trip itself, because we were so busy sightseeing and things like that, and taking a lot of camera reference photo, I didn't really do the sketching. Usually when I have a time to sit down. So you may miss the kind of like the most important part. But then, like these are, the good thing is these are actually real life drawing, which is, kind of cool. Yeah, so I like that. So this is a couple, in the ferry, and then that's the end of that day. And then the next day we went to a place called is called Matawanta in New Zealand, and there's a story to it. But then basically, it's the farm that have the movie set for Lord of the Ring and also for the Hobbits, and they call it the Hobbiton. And this is kind of like a line of waiting to board the tour bus. And then, of course, we see a lot of, very interesting things there. And then at the end of the trip, we were sitting at a place called the Green Dragon Inn, and we were given kind of like a free beer. Of course, I don't drink, so we were just having some beverages. And the fun thing is, this is actually the inn that they filmed some of the Hobbit movie. So it's kind of cool to be there. All right. And then I was sitting there, so I was sketching the tour guide, the tour director, chit-chatting. Okay. And then that is the next day. The next day we were leaving the hotel, and on the coach bus, I just sketched some of the trees. And I think this is the day that we went to see the kiwi bird. The kiwi bird is actually a nocturnal bird, so it actually come out at night. So in order for tourists like me to be able to see them and spot them, so what they did is they actually have a kind of like a house for them, and then they purposely switch the day and night. So in the kind of like at 7 p.m. our time, they would switch on all the light and kind of like pretend to be daytime for the bird. So the bird would be active in our nighttime. And because of that, so when the morning come, they will actually switch the light back off. So it become nighttime. And because the bird is kind of like a nocturnal bird, so it actually is more active during nighttime. So the bird thought it's nighttime, so it will come out. And when it come out, then we can see them. So I have to say that it's basically black on black. But then while spotting the bird, I noticed various things that, for example, it has wings, but then it's almost invisible. I mean, like it's so small that you can't see it. But then they have really strong legs. It's kind of pinkish in color. And then another thing is, when I was doing this, I'm already imagining using the milk resist, and then the Japanese, well, what we call the white liquid, which is a resist liquid, to try to do this black on black on black. So I can't wait to put it in sumie. So I think this would be a really cool bird to paint in sumie with the resist. right? So, and then we go to the next day. Again, like I like to draw some of the trees in the at the hotel. It's a kind of like a slightly older hotel, so the yard has a lot of really interesting trees, and some of them are very massive and gigantic. Although, like we have seen palm tree in Florida, but then this is, like a different feel to it. So I drew some of the really nice trees. And then on our way, um, this is actually at the airport. We are flying to Queensland that day. And then one interesting thing is the native call New Zealand, native language, the meaning is the land of the long white cloud. And I have to say that I did observe, like really long white cloud, like in the sky. So that is kind of an interesting landscape that I have not seen in the Americas. And of course, there's more of the scenery when we are waiting in the airport. And it's a smaller airport, so I have to say that there's not much happening, not even a plane on site. So we see the cart ready to put the luggage, but it's a pretty tiny airport. And of course, like I like to draw people who are unsuspecting, and that of course you will not recognize it is David. Yeah. And then another unidentified person, waiting in the airport. Now we actually arrived at Queensland, and in Queensland, the first day we actually went up the cable car to go to kind of the top of the mountain to see Queensland. So this is actually view from the top, and this is some of the really interesting landscape of Queensland. And I have to say that, like right in front of me, there's actually a cable car going up and down here. But then because it's moving, so I didn't draw the cable car, only draw the scenery behind it. And there's the harbor, the bay, and different kind of landscape. Very interesting, very blue sky, right? Okay, the next day we went to Milford Sound, which is kind of like a must-see if you go to Queensland. And I have to say that, like a majority of this book actually was the sketches from Mildred Sound because it was a ferry ride and it's a pretty long ferry ride. So I was able to sit by the window and was able to actually sketch all that. So I'm really happy with this. And you see that, like by sketching, you pay a lot of attention to the slope, the structure, and then I'm also thinking how to do it in Sumi landscape style. But then the slope is quite different from the landscape in Americas, right? And of course, you see the very interesting folding of the land. This is also Mildred Sound. And then, of course, we have lots and lots of farm in New Zealand. And I was also looking at how they grouping. So I even wrote it down that mostly group of three and one big and two small. And presumably the mom or pop and the babies. So usually it's a group of three. I mean, that's what I noticed. So we have, lambs, sheep, like all around the pastel. And by the way, this is not a stationary painting. This is a moving target when the bus and the boat are moving. So they are drew in groups, but then but I put them all together. So it looks pretty cool, right? And then we have this is called Arlington Mountain Range. And then we have some really green mountain in the front, but then in the back, you will have some rocky mountains with some snow on the top. And according to the tour guide, actually, they just snow the week before. So this is not melting snow. This is basically snow starting to accumulate. According to the weather, because this is November in New Zealand, so this is actually the end of spring, beginning of summer. But because in the end of spring, sometimes they still have snow. So this just snowed it. All right. And then this is Mildred Sound from the boat. And you see that, like a various landscape with, like waterfall in between. And as I say, I was on the boat with a window seat, so I drew a lot of this. And I particularly like the formation here. It looks really, really beautiful. Okay, more formations. Yeah. This is carved out by the glacier. according to, the description on the boat. And then, of course, we have various waterfall, and this one, of course, is called the Bear, Bowen Falls. Right? It's kind of one of the major waterfall. And more of the Mildred Sound. As I say, I mean, I really drew a lot on the spot, which is really interesting. And also, the waterfall. This is actually the same waterfall, but because the boat is moving, so I'm able to sketch some while it's moving and then catch it from another angle. So this is kind of like a moving target sketch, which make it more interesting. This is actually on the right back because Queensland and Mildred Sound are not on the same spot. Queensland is maybe here, and then Mildred Sound is around here. And then there's no direct flight because, I mean, no direct road because there's kind of the mountain in between. So they would have to drive all the way down like a U shape and then go to Mildred Sound. And so it takes like less than 2 hours one way to go to Mildred Sound, and then another 2 hour back. But then on the trip home, then you can actually enjoy the various kind of landscape. And of course, some people who are very tired, they'll just take a nap. So we have more of the view from the return trip from the Mildred Sound. Really beautiful landscape. And of course, I was sitting kind of in the front of the coach, so I was able to see from the driver's viewpoint, and there are, ships and cattle on both sides, different kind of landscape. Really beautiful, really beautiful. Okay, this is the next day. The next day, I have an excursion to go to a farm for a barbecue and also some visiting the farm. And we are able to board a ship that has been in operation for more than 100 years and is still using coal and steam engine and things like that. So it's a continuously running boat. It used to be, for cattle, and then they modified it maybe like 70 years ago for passenger and has been a passenger ship for the last 70 years. So it's pretty amazing. We were waiting to board the ship, and then this is actually on the ship, seeing from the outside and seeing from the inside out. And this is actually the shops and restaurant that you can see in Queensland, and that's kind of like the cable at the very end. And interestingly, this is actually the lifeboat from outside my window of the boat. Okay, so this is kind of like what I took before the ship sailed. And of course, this is the landscape of the Queensland Bay. One interesting thing is I took a lot of reference photo of that too. I'm going to see how it will look like in Sumie landscape. But then the interesting thing is you see landscape with greenery on both sides and some kind of brownish structures, and they are not the same as say, for example, these. They are not the same as these or these, right? And then according to, like what I find out is that these with green, and some brown in between is not formed by the folding of the land, but basically what they call a tree avalanche. Because the rock doesn't have a lot of soil, so when the tree hold on to it, eventually at some point, it was unable to support the weight of the tree, so it will fall down. And when it fall, it will have an avalanche effect, a domino effect, and then it will continue to fall, and then it will create kind of like its own pathway. So you will have green on both sides and some kind of brownish. And if you take a closer look, you will see like dead trees or, collapsed trees in between. And then there are lots of landscape that look like that, which is design caused by tree avalanche, which I think is very interesting because I have not seen something similar in the Americas. And so that would be something that I would want to depict in my landscape in the future. Okay, this is a snow-capped mountain at Queensland, right, on board the steamship. Right? And then there are two peaks and it's named after two brothers, and this one is called Cecil Peak. And this is the next day. We were waiting to actually go to another location. I think we're traveling to Australia. And then by the pool of the hotel, there's some really interesting flower. I have tried to Google and cannot find this. I went to the hotel lobby and the lady also didn't know, but then she searched online and she thought it is French lavender. I do not agree with her, but I still wrote it down. But then I don't think they are French lavender because French lavender doesn't look like that. According to what I wrote down on the description, there are four petals, four of them upright like iris, but then here they have like a lot of little florets, and then the leaves look like this, right? And then the flower is purple and pink, and and then the bees like them. So and then they are around 3 feet high. So I have asked around, no one know what this is. So I will continue my search because I would like to paint them in brush painting. I think it's a really unique flower. And the color is interesting too. The color is not purple, it's not pink, it's not red, it's almost like a violet slash lavender. So it's very interesting, very beautiful flower. Of course, they also have roses. They were blooming, so I took, two sketches of them. And then in between, because Queensland was also a town that boomed because of the gold rush, so they have some old equipment from the foxing from probably from the mine. So I, like sketched some of them when I was waiting for the bus. And then, of course, we are at the Queensland airport, and this is a much bigger airport than the last one. And we also have a longer wait. So I was people watching, so I sketched, multiple unsuspecting tourists. And I think this lady is pretty interesting. There's another lady here, but then after I sketch her, I want to sketch her, but then it's too late because already like she's off the page, right? Okay. And then I have more unsuspecting tourists. Um, and you may recognize this guy. This is David napping. Napping again. This is actually another day. We have an excursion to go to see the penguin in Phillips Island, and it's a pretty long ride on a smaller van. And then after that, we also have to have an earlier dinner because the penguin won't come out until kind of dusk after it came dark. So we are going to have an early dinner and then we will sit at the beach and wait. So this is the place where we have an early dinner, which is called the town of cows, but COW, but ES. So I think it's pronounced as cows. Yeah. All right. So here is the beach that the penguin will come out. We call it the penguin parade because all the penguin, after hunting, they would come up along the beach, and then they will all come up and then will kind of I was told that in a slow day, it's like 500 plus. In a busy day, they counted maybe like 2,000. So you're talking about lots and lots of penguins. They all come up and then they actually have a route to go this way and then come here. And then there are different stands, different prices. This is like the regular stand here, and then there's a premium. And then on here, where they go up the ramp is called Premium Plus. And see, like here and then continue will be kind of like the beach here and then the ramp up here. And then the premium plus stand is actually around here. And then all the penguin would come up here. So I sketched this before because there's a rule that you cannot take pictures of the penguin. The way they were explained to us is that the penguin, they went hunting. And then when they hunt, they actually have all the food in their tummy because they are bringing all the food to the young ones in the barrels. And so it's not only for the penguin, but for the young one as well. And if they get startled or if they get frightened, what they would do is just like when people get startled, they might vomit. And then if they vomit and they will lose the food that they have hunted for. And not only would the penguin that vomit, pass away. But then, the young one would also starve to death because there's no food left for the young ones. So in a way, by like having the flashlight, by thinking that you didn't hurt the penguin, you just startled them, but then it might have like bad consequences. So they decided not to let people do photography. But of course, you can always say that, how about you don't let them use fresh photography, which could be a way, but sometimes people may be, bad with the fingers and maybe they didn't understand it, or maybe they just pushed the wrong button and then the fresh will still go on. And in order to avoid that, they would just make it like a policy across the board that no photography. So I do understand that. So luckily, I can sketch. So here's what I sketched during that time. So after I did the features and also, one with the crowd, because as I say, this is the way that they walk up. They really walk out right in front of us. So I was sitting here. And here you go. Here are the penguins. Ta-da! Here they comes. This is, the penguin coming out. And you have to do it really quick so you can see how like doodly the lines are. And I have more penguin. I'm catching all of them. And then, doing some really quick moving one. And the fun thing is sometimes they walk, and then they turn, they look at you, and then they continue walking. So in a way, they kind of pose for me too. So I really enjoy them. Many, many pages of them. More. Okay. They sometimes stand and look and look back. Okay. And more. Okay, this one. Stand and look. And I think, is there one more? Okay. And I also want to see their formation, because eventually I'm going to put this formation into here and then combine the two, because I don't have any reference photo, combine these two with these reference sketches, So there's my penguin parade. All right. So now we go to the next day. Next day, we are going to actually fly from the Melbourne airport to Cairns. So this is a relatively bigger airport. This is the plane that we are going to board. And then this is the scenery from the airplane. I have to say that I found this interesting because I found naturally landscape like mountains and river that divide the lines. But then I also see human-made borders that are completely strict and artificial. So, seeing from the top is kind of, look at how nature divide the land and how human divide the land. So I find this very interesting, seeing from the airport, the airplane. Yep. Okay, now we arrive in Cairns, and we are going to go to the Great Barrier Reef. And this is kind of like at the pier waiting, because the boats were here waiting, because it was, really sunny that day. So we were all hiding, like near the restaurant area, looking out. And this is, when we just onboarded the boat, and we were waiting to go to the pier, and something bad happened. It was really, really rocky. And I have been to cruises, I've been to river cruises and also ocean cruises to the Caribbeans, Alaska, and multiple ones. I never get seasick, but this one I did. And when I say seasick, I mean real seasick, that my entire breakfast came out, right? So it was really bad. So I thought I would be doing sketches of fish, of the Barrier Reef. And since I am not really into water sport, so we're going to stay there at the reef for a whole day for, some of the guests to be scuba diving and, doing a lot of water sport. And I was thinking, that is a really good day. So they can do whatever they want. And I would just be by myself at the pier, like doing some sketching. And gosh, because I got seasick, and I try, but I'll let you see what I did. I think those are the two worst sketches I did in the entire sketchbook, right? So these two are fine. This two is before I got seasick. And this is, I recover, but it was rocky sea. I mean, there's a helicopter pad for some guests to go up and see the reef from above. But I have to say that I was basically doing nothing, I mean, artist-wise, because I was just really sick. And then I also was people watching, and this is one of the lifeguard. Um, she looked pretty bored, but you can see that all the sketch mark and things like that, it's really not that good. But I have to say that after I did this too, and also we went to see the glass bottom bowl and, like semi-submarine to try to see the reef. And I have to say that I'm quite disappointed. I mean, I heard news about the warming of the ocean and then the reef are, not as vibrant as they are. But then I also heard news that they are coming back. But then I have to see that, like when you see some of my reference photo that I took, they are just brownish and grayish. Um, does not look alive to me, although I don't think they're completely dead, but it looks really devastated. I mean, and it could be my portion of the reef, maybe other parts of the reef are still really vibrant and nice, but then the part that I saw is I would probably say 75-80% dead, not alive at all. And because the reef is not alive, I actually don't see any fish. The only fish I saw is when they are doing some kind of feeding. They have hours that the crew would actually drop some fish food to attract the fish so the guests can see them. Um, but then they are just, I mean, you don't see, for example, uh, like you don't see the orange fish, the blue fish, the one that you find in Finding Nemo. I mean, like you don't see any of those, like none. I mean, nothing. I actually don't see any exotic fish, not a single one. Um, but that's a remedy. I'll tell you what I did later. But let's go back to the sketchbook. All right. So the call with day is done. All right. So the next day, we went to a rainforest, and then at the top of the rainforest, there's a kind of like the first people's village. So we were there, and then in the village there are still a lot of plant and trees. So like we have some shopping time, and besides shopping, of course, I sat at one of the cafe and I sketched some of the really massive tree structures and the vegetation structures. Really, really nice. And then this is actually the view from my hotel room at Cairns. And the reason why I painted this is because the first day we arrived, this is from the balcony of my hotel, but it's not like this because there was a big cruise ship here. And but then, like the next day, the day that we are actually, I think that day we are leaving, but then the cruise ship disappeared, it sailed away. So because of that, I can see the mountain and the harbor. So I'm so happy I quickly sketch it, right? So there you go. And let's see. Okay. And this is kind of like the rest of the trip. And David feeding the wallaby. We went to a particular it's called Crocodile Adventure. And we have kind of like a private tour arranged by GoBus. So we were able to feed the wallaby, hold the koala bear, and things like that. So more wallaby. All right. And the koala bear. Because all of us were able to take a picture of the koala bear, so I was able to actually, take some good um, sketches of him. The interesting thing is, I would probably, like see in a lot of reference photos that, like baby koala bear, big heads and smaller body. The one that we were holding for pictures is 7 years old. So, because it's an older one, the head portion to the body is not as, like gigantic. So it's not quote unquote as cute, but I do have, like various observations that I'm so glad that I saw. For example, like the koala bear has 2 thumbs and 3 fingers instead of 1 thumb and 4 fingers like us, because they have to really hold on to the branch. So 2 of these become thumbs and these become fingers. So they always hold on to things like this, like this. So it's very interesting observation. And they also have spots at the bottom, because when people see them from below looking up, it would have the camouflage effect of lights passing through the rainforest. So those are the things that, if you buy a soft toy or a sample, you may not observe this kind of different white and gray spot on the bottom, and also, the separation of the fingers. So that's kind of cool. And different pose. And this one is sleeping. Right? And this is the on the skyway to the rainforest, there's a famous waterfall. I still have to look at my the written document to remember the name of the fall, but this is one of the more significant waterfall that is from the rainforest. And of course, I'm coming to the end pages of my sketchbook. So I want to be sure that I save 1 or 2 pages for the Sydney Harbor. And of course, the Sydney Harbor would have the Opera House and also the bridge. This is taken from the ferry ride to a place called the Manly Beach. And this is on the way back. So this is a pretty nice viewpoint, because usually you may see it from this angle and when you walk closer, but then only from the bay, then you can see it like this. So which I really appreciate this viewpoint. Right. And of course, last but not least, the last page I will also end with a portrait of my husband and I. And this is taken at a place called Sea Life, because you can walk under the aquarium to actually see the living animal from above. And one thing that I did is, because I have to say that I was quite disappointed because of my seasickness, and also the kind of like the disappointing look of the Great Barrier Reef. So I find out that in Sydney, they have a place called Sea Life, Wildlife, and like some other things. But then they have kind of like a price for one, buy the ticket for 2 places, 3 places in a package and things like that. So we bought the one for Sea Life, Wildlife, and also the Sky Tower. And the Sea Life, my purpose is actually to take more reference photo of the penguin that I was unable to take reference photo of because of the forbidden photography at the penguin parade. And of course, in Sea Life, you are welcome to take pictures. So I was able to take pictures of the penguin, although under glass, and with all this, like stain on the grass, it's not as clear, but then, the silhouette and also, the structure are still there. So I was able to take pictures of penguin, not only the little penguin from the penguin parade, but also other penguins such as the Empire penguin and some other different kind of penguin, the penguin that you find in Happy Feet, and all these different kind of penguin. And I was also able to see different kind of coral reef and also different kind of fish, the one you find in Nemo, because it's an aquarium, Sea Life in aquarium. So I also take different reference photo of them. And then in wildlife, they also have the koala bear and also the kangaroo and wombat and Tasmanian devil. I was able to they did on purpose. They actually feed them something, and then 2 Tasmanian devil were actually fighting for the same piece of meat. So I was able to take some reference photo of that, and also of kangaroo, and also they have the koala bear up in a place that is kind of like a cafe, because they want you to buy something to eat and then take picture behind you. So we were able to stay there, and then those koala bear are slightly younger, so they are, have to say, cuter. And I was able to take some picture of them. But then the thing is the behavior. They sleep around 22 hours a day. So they are basically sleeping on the branch. But still, I was able to take, various picture of different angles and things like that. So I'm looking forward to making them into sumi painting. I don't know how they'll come up yet, but then I will. I plan to have, painting of the penguin, the koala, the kangaroo, maybe the Tasmanian devil fighting for the same piece of meat, and then the coral reef, the different sea life there, and also the really long white cloud of New Zealand, plus the various interesting tree avalanche at Queenstown and also Mildred Sound. So all in all, it's a very enjoyable trip. I really enjoy my trip in New Zealand and Australia, and I hope you enjoy seeing all the fun sketches that I have, and hope to see you in another sketchbook review. Thank you. Bye.